Hi, this is Human Essence, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about a murder by a hit person in the middle of the day from two educated people. No, it's not the Adelsons. It is, in fact, the murder of Dr. Daniel Malakov, who was a 34-year-old dentist who was killed in Forest Hills, Queens, at a playground when he was exchanging custody of his little girl. So, Dr. Malikov was married to an internist by the name of Marina. She went by Marina Borukhova. And they were so in love when they married, to the extent that when people were at the wedding and afterwards said they were embarrassing because they couldn't keep their hands off of each other and they were just so in love. Both of them were Bukharian Jews who had emigrated to the United States from Central Asia, from countries like Uzbekistan or Kazakhstan. And there are many people in this area of Queens who've immigrated from those countries. The problem was that not too many people understood their culture, and we can see how this plays out with regard to what happens to their daughter after the case. So, when this couple divorced, the family court ordered that the girl should visit with her father. But whenever she was supposed to go with her father, the little girl would cling to her mother and yell and scream. And as a result of this, family court became involved and looked into and decided that the mother's behavior was instilling this fear into the little girl. In response to that, an attorney helped the mother in the family court and made allegations against the father, claiming that he'd beaten the mother and had been essaying the little girl. There was no evidence of this, and as the final outcome was that custody was exchanged from the mother to the father, Daniel Malikov, when he hadn't even requested it. So, as the child was exchanged, the mother hired a camera company to film the exchange while her daughter clung to her and became upset. But nevertheless, custody was exchanged to the father, Daniel. So one morning, when Daniel is exchanging the little girl to the mother, he's shot dead by a silent shotgun in a playground on Yellowstone Boulevard and 64th Street in Forest Hills. The case comes and it's determined that Marina Borukhova, she goes by that name, had 91 phone calls with a relative who came up from Atlanta, Georgia, and was recognized by a teacher whose evidence put him at the scene, and his fingerprints were found on a silencer. And after that murder, she had transferred $20,000 to him. She's serving life in prison, and then the child was placed with completely different people from completely different backgrounds by a foster care agency, rather than with any of Daniel's relatives who wanted the child, who were all physical therapists and doctors and very well educated and had their own children. But there was a misunderstanding about the culture, And so some of the caseworkers were not comfortable with them because they didn't understand. They didn't speak the language, they didn't understand what was going on. And so the child was placed temporarily in this foster home. And then they were afraid to keep her because they wouldn't explain what happened. So the child was placed with some of Daniel's relatives, and then they were afraid to keep her. So there seems to have been some fear about people who were making threats to them. Eventually, the little girl ended up with an uncle on her father's side, on Daniel's side, and she would now be an adult. So this is an interesting case. Again, a hitman was hired. Cultural differences within people who are practicing Judaism in different ways and coming from different cultures is coming into play. The family court system, a battle, and then the criminal court system and how it interplays. You can find articles about this from the time of the first trial in 2009 in the New York Times, in the New York Times a review of books, in the Post. You'll see that some of the coverage is a little bit xenophobic because the awareness of recognizing different cultural differences was not there at the time, which is a shame. So you may want to follow this case. It's a similar one in that the people are educated, they were so in love, they split up, and the damage that it caused to so many people, and most of all to the child who would now be an adult. And let's pray that that girl is doing well. Thanks for listening.